People often blame themselves when things don't go the way they'd like in the bedroom. And they tell themselves, it's my fault. But they don't know what I've learned from talking to clients for the past 25 years, which is that in terms of arousal, men are like microwaves. Women, we're more like crockpots. It takes us a while to get there, doesn't it, ladies? But nobody is ever broken. I'm a clinical sexologist and relationship coach. I help people with relationship issues and sexual issues. Sex therapist is a term more people are familiar with. I am not a sexual surrogate. I'm all talk, no action. Have you ever said, oh, honey, I've got a headache. I'm menopausal, my hormones tanked. It's not gonna work. Didn't work last time, it's not gonna work. I still gotta mop the floor, make the kids lunch. In women, sexual performance anxiety can show up as difficulty getting interested in sex, difficulty getting aroused, or difficulty with orgasm. In men, we know what it looks like. Difficulty getting an erection, keeping an erection, or coming too soon. I put all that under the umbrella term of sexual performance anxiety because the root cause is anxiety. And I call anxiety any kind of uncomfortable feeling we're having, like insecurity about our attractiveness or our sexual skills, or that brain that will not stop chattering during sex. Has anyone here ever had that experience? Just me? Thank you. I've had performance anxiety during sex, and I'm a sexologist. I've got anxiety up here talking to you all about performance anxiety. In men, sexual performance anxiety tends to speed things up, and they're over way quicker than you might like. In women, anxiety slows things way down, and we have trouble getting in the game. But we don't think of women as having sexual performance anxiety because the signs are not so clearly visible. Gentlemen, I'm going to talk about the ladies here for a minute, but listen up, because part of being a good lover is knowing what's going on in your head. Have you ever asked yourself, what's she thinking right now? Why isn't she turned on? What am I doing wrong? Many women come to sex therapy thinking they're broken. They've lost the desire for their partner, they've lost the chemistry, they're accused of being frigid, they're not. Step into my office for a moment. Haven't you all wanted to be a fly on the wall in a sex therapist's office? It's 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. There's a woman sitting alone on my couch. Can't tell you her name because that's confidential. She's dressed pretty sexily for an appointment with me, which you might assume indicates that she's totally comfortable with her sexuality. She's pretty tense, and I can tell she's close to tears. And she tells me she has a man in her life, but she can't get aroused with him. Now, her age is unimportant. She has a successful corporate career, but that does not eliminate the fact that she was conditioned by her overly critical father to be afraid of being a disappointment. And she has learned to not have any needs and not voice her desires. And that includes her sexual desires. She unfolds a history of wanting to please, which is a very popular strategy when we're afraid to receive. She also has a history of focusing on the man in her life and losing herself. Sound familiar to anybody? In my assessment with clients, I always ask about masturbation. If you can masturbate yourself to orgasm, your equipment works fine. Hers does too. When I begin to ask her about her sexual needs, she cries. After I ask her a series of questions, she's able to identify her sexual needs, but she has a really hard time owning them and speaking them, let alone telling her lover. And she tells me, you know, during sex, I feel so emotionally connected to him, but I just can't get aroused. Now, pretty early on with my clients, I have a conversation that I call the Nitty Gritty, where we get into every juicy detail of who does what to whom, when, and how, and why. And she tells me, as soon as he initiates, in fact, as soon as I know that sex is going to happen, I start to get anxious about getting turned on as fast as him. At that point, she is not connected. She's not connected to herself. She's not connected to him. She's in her head, and she's not getting aroused because she's not in her body. When we have sexual performance anxiety, both men and women, we tend to do a number of things. We check out. We might make our partner wrong and keep them at arm's length, and because it's much easier to blame them for our inadequacies. We might distance ourselves emotionally because we're quietly resentful because they won't make it easier for us by reading our minds. We might wonder if our medication is going to make it difficult for us to orgasm. We might worry about whether our body parts are big enough or small enough. We might worry about our partner getting lockjaw and giving up on us. And if we're lucky, we worry about whether we're going to make a weird face when we orgasm. We will. All that is happening is that we're not trusting that we are lovable, that we are desirable, that we are deserving of pleasure, that we are enough. My work with this client is to help her understand all of who she is as a sexual being, to embrace that and live it authentically. I call my approach erotic integrity. Now, her erotic integrity is to own that she is not a disappointment. There is room for her needs. And she's going to have to find her voice if she wants to have a good time in bed. So how do we set ourselves up for success? Gentlemen, please let go of performing. Performing is entertaining an audience. And ladies, know your body and what brings you pleasure. And don't confuse lack of arousal for lack of interest in sex. Open your eyes. Look at what's happening in the room between you and your lover. For extra credit, look your partner in the eye. It can be deeply powerful and erotic. Open your mouth. Say what's happening in the moment. It takes the charge out of it. Baby, I need to slow down. I'm getting anxious about not getting turned on fast enough, and I really want to get it on with you, so I'm just going to slow down. Most of all, we must confront ourselves about all the ways that we keep ourselves small. Erotic integrity is not just about sex. It's about the bigger picture of how we show up out there in the world, outside the bedroom. My hope is that, ladies, next time you're in bed with a lover, you're better able to trust that you are enough. And those of you lucky enough to find yourselves in bed with a woman, let her know that all you want is her and all of who she is. The solution to performance anxiety is knowing three things. We are enough, we are not broken, And when we live our sexuality authentically, we are in erotic integrity. Thank you.